This is the greatest controller setup maybe in all of FPS gaming, but definitely in Destiny history. Just make sure you're paying close attention to everything I show you without skipping through, or else you're going to miss out on some secret gems and techniques. The advantages are that it'll separate actions that are by default assigned to the same button presses, make it easier to hit shots while jumping in the air consistently, and you will almost never dead slide. I've developed these methods through 4 years of countless experimenting and collaborating with some of the best controller pioneers in the game, like Redset, Collusion, Azrael, etc. So let's crack into this. Here is my controller. In my opinion, this is hands down, without a doubt, the best controller right now. And no, this is not a sponsorship. I've tested a few rollers and this was the only one I could find with 6 paddles placed in a comfortable position. It's got 4 on the back, on the bottom, and 1 paddle on each side. Every person I've ever met that's tried to get used to the side paddles always ends up accidentally clicking them at first, but I'm going to explain everything about the way I play, including my grip and how I press my buttons, because this setup, I promise you, these are going to be the most complex, unique button assignments you've ever seen. And I promise you, not a single one of you watching this will be able to master this on day one. In my experience, anytime I change one single thing about my controller setup, it would take me 30 days to get used to everything and operating in a flow state without misclicking. That's usually how long it takes for most humans to get used to any habit, at the very most 30 days. So if you stick to everything I show you here today, I guarantee you can get this mastered if you're willing to go through the growing pains of misclicks, losing, getting teabagged by egotistical 19-year-old virgins, and not letting the ego behind the love for your KD get in the way. I guarantee you'll come out a faster and better player 110% if you go through the first 30 days of practicing everything I show you. Which, by the way, you could just practice in private matches or PvE, but I'm sure that itch for going into pubs or comp will come up. Just don't get discouraged by the setbacks and discipline yourself to stick to it. So let's start from the beginning. This controller here is the Scuf Envision Pro V2. You can actually just buy this at Best Buy in the physical store. Just make sure you get the warranty in case you drop it and it breaks or you throw it at your monitor or something. I personally get the 2-year warranty. Make sure you're getting the V2 because the V2 has the beloved Hall effects that prevent stick drift. If you don't know what stick drift is, basically if you use your controller for a while, your thumbsticks will slightly activate on their own, like this. And that's really annoying and makes it so you can't use your keyboard for in-game chat, which can be the difference maker, especially if you're a solo player. It comes in this box. It comes with a Type-C to, I think, USB 2.0/3.0 wire and a chip that works like a Bluetooth, so you can use it wirelessly. When you plug it in, it's going to tell you to download a software called IQ, and it is necessary in order to change the paddle button assignments on your controller, as well as your dead zones. What are dead zones? We'll get back into that in a minute, but let's just focus on the paddles, the button assignments, and why they're advantageous first. Obviously, you have to assign the paddles to various buttons on the controller, so I'm going to show you a picture of my controller front to back and what they're assigned to for Destiny 2. The first difference maker I want to point out is how I separated uncharged melee, so a basic punch, and charged melee, which is basically a throwing knife in any first-person shooter. These two actions are assigned to the same button by default in Destiny 2. Like whenever I try to melee somebody, it'll force me into a throwing knife animation when I just wanted to do the basic punch. And it's costed me games in the past, so separating these two were a priority. My uncharged melee is right stick, and my charged melee is the right side paddle. I figured out it was a good place to put it because whenever I hit one of my side paddles, I have to take my fingers off of the top of my controller, which are what I will use for aiming, shooting, grenade throwing, etc. Here's my grip, and here's how I press it. I kind of arch my fingers a tiny bit so they don't accidentally press the side paddles, but when I do want to press them, I extend my finger like this and hit it with the bottom part of my index finger, the part below the second line on your finger. This next button assignment may actually be the most important and definitely the most used paddle in my entire setup. My top right paddle is set to left stick, which is tailored to sprint. Why is this so important? It's important because of movement. In Destiny 2, dead slides are a rampant issue for most players. Dead slides are when you press your sprint button and then your crouch button right after. So you can slide, but the sprint button doesn't activate, so you don't slide, you basically just crouch. But going up against controller extraordinaire Collusion, I noticed he by far had the best movement out of all the controller players. And watching his streams, you'll notice he never dead slides. After talking to him for a while, he mentioned he only used one paddle on his controller and clawed everything else. And that one paddle he used was connected to sprint, because hitting his left stick all the time to activate sprint, like most people do, hurt his thumb. So I went ahead and gave it a try, and I noticed as long as I was spamming that paddle tailored to left stick before I pressed my crouch button, I would never dead slide. So if I'm not holding an angle, peek shooting, or crouching, I'm pretty much always hitting this paddle to make sure if I need to slide at any given moment, I won't mess up. Right next to my sprint button is my crouch button on the top left paddle. I just felt it was the most comfortable all around for crouching and shooting with it being assigned to this. The next most important paddle assignment is right underneath of crouch, and is one of the biggest difference makers. My bottom left paddle is assigned to jump. I learned the bumper jumper layout early on in Destiny 1 from former #1 ranked Destiny 1 player Malcolm. This layout would tailor your jump button to L1/L2. Me personally, I always used it on L2, but I'd always find a few milliseconds where I'd have to swap my left index finger from jump to aim down sights using L1, and that was a valuable enough amount of time that I really needed, so I decided to make that my bottom left paddle. Considering it's kind of harder to spam this paddle compared to the top paddles, and you don't really need to spam your jumping like you do for crouching and activating sprint, and you can keep your index fingers on your aim down sights and shoot, this just made sense. And let's actually talk about that real quick. And this is going to be very important to consider because I know a lot of people like using their L2R2 for aiming and shooting, but I'm going to explain why I like using L1R1 for aiming and shooting, and I'm probably going to be talking about what I use L2R2 for last. I don't have the biggest of hands, so I like to use triangle for interact. In Destiny 2, this is used to revive or pick up an ammo box. I oftentimes have to shoot opponents while I do this in tight situations, and it made it easier for me to interact and shoot without messing up my aim because this is the one and only time I'll ever claw. We talked earlier about how collusion always claws. It basically just means that you're using your middle finger or your index finger on your action buttons like your triangle, circle, square. Like when I have a tight window where I may have to revive or interact at the same time as I shoot, I put my middle finger on R1 and the inside top part of my right index finger pressing triangle like this, and I leave my right thumb on the right stick for aiming. This will take some practice and getting used to, but I promise you this is the easiest claw motion you can possibly do, and you will learn it if you just take the time to practice it while aiming. Another thing you could try that I see top tier players doing is binding their aim down sights button and interact button together instead of clawing. I decided to go the harder to learn, more rewarding route with the clawing, but this is also very, very effective from what I've seen from other top tier gamers. We've got 2 more paddles to cover, but before that, I want to encourage you all to drop a like on the video and subscribe if you like what you've seen so far, because it really does help and it is free. Be sure to stay to the end and leave a comment with your thoughts, or if you have any questions, I'll try to help you out personally. So the last paddle on the back of the controller is the bottom right paddle tailored to weapon swap. I like having it here so I can also keep my thumbs on the sticks while quick swapping to another weapon. If I were to press an action button with my thumb to swap weapons, I would be losing valuable milliseconds that are all a decent player needs to win an engagement. And the last paddle is the left side paddle. I change this to a few things depending on my loadout, but my main assignment is reload. Because I can take my index finger off of my ADS button and I won't lose the valuable milliseconds. And in Destiny 2, reload and interact are bound to the same button, so there'd be times I try to interact with something and if I slightly messed up, I get caught in a reload animation and I'd lose valuable milliseconds and the entire engagement, so it just made sense to put this here. For my fellow Destiny players, I will sometimes have this set to alternative reload for things like Graviton Spike or Cryosthesia, or I'll have it set to my heavy weapon swap if I'm using an Eager Edge Sword, or Icarus Dash on Solar Warlock for movement, but if I'm not using those, I just have it set to reload. And the last buttons to cover are L2R2, aka LTRT. And L2 I've set for Destiny 2 class abilities like dodge, rifts, or air dive moves after jumping in the air first, then pressing L2, and R2 I've set to grenade. I said we'd come back to dead zones earlier. Essentially, you want your dead zones as low as possible because they give you more responsiveness and finer control. I turn them down as low as possible until stick drift starts to occur. So you just want to turn them down until you see your sticks moving on their own, and IQ lets you do that. And you might be wondering, now SM7, why would you reveal all your secret techniques? Well, unfortunately, this controller setup only works on PC, and I'm hoping releasing this will help evolve gaming and gamers as a whole, so we can all keep the industry evolving, and hopefully Scuf or somebody will make a controller like this available, or even better for console, especially whenever GTA 6 comes out. Hope you guys like this, because that pretty much covers everything. If you're curious about anything else, ask in the comments, or reach out to me in my stream or Discord server. All my links and everyone involved in this will be in the description. Much love, stay sexy, don't cheat. Don't play with cheaters. Seriously, man. It's not cool. Anyway, y'all stay blessed. Talk to you soon.